The USC football team is taking on Cal after coming off their bye week well rested.
And Khalia Lanier of the USC women's volleyball team joins me in studio. Sports Scene starts now. Welcome to the Annenberg Media Center. I'm Lauren Dunn.
And I'm Alexa Palermo. USC is gearing up for an unusual Thursday night game under the lights at the Coliseum tomorrow. The Trojans and the Bears are both 4-3 and hoping to stay above 500.
USC has not lost to Cal since 2003, and they really can't lose to them this time around if they want to keep their Pac-12 South hopes alive. Junior cornerback Adoree Jackson says the team faces a tough matchup with Cal quarterback Davis Webb.
Good quarterback, throw the ball very well. With a guy like that, compare him to Jared Goff. That's what coaches tell us. So just make sure we just got to do what we got to do. Play our type of ball and just try to affect him as much as possible.
The Bears' attack is led by Webb, who has stepped into the shoes left behind by first overall pick in last year's draft, Jared Goff. Webb has been dynamic this season, throwing for over 350 yards and almost 4 touchdowns per game. But he's not the only driving force of this offense.
That's right. Cal's run game is pretty much evenly split between two running backs, Trey Watson and Khalfani Muhammad, after Vic Enware broke his foot in last week's game. Watson and Muhammad each have rushed for over 100 yards in back-to-back games versus Oregon and Oregon State. The last time Cal had two rushers with back-to-back 100-yard performances was in 2004.
And overall, Cal's up-tempo, pass-happy offense ranks in the top 10 nationally and could pose a problem for USC's secondary. Cal broke the FBS single-game record with 118 offensive plays last week.
The last 3 games that Cal has played were decided by 5 points or less, and 2 of those games went into overtime. The Bears are coming off a double overtime win against Oregon last Friday and only have 6 days to prepare to take on the Trojans.
On the other hand, USC is coming off a bye week and had ample time to prepare for tomorrow's matchup against Cal. The 12 days off was not only helpful for preparation, but also gave the Trojans time to recover from the first half of the season.
That Arizona game was a physical game. When we come out, we had some bumps and bruises, and to be able to get some of the guys that had played a ton of plays in the first 7 weeks, to be able to give them a little rest was extremely advantageous.
Several players especially benefited from the time off, including Juju Smith-Schuster, Leon McQuay, and Ajane Harris, who all suffered injuries against Arizona 2 weeks ago, but have practiced this week and are expected to play tomorrow.
However, the bye week wasn't enough time to heal Justin Davis's ankle injury, which he suffered against Colorado 3 weeks ago. The starting running back did not practice this week, and Helton listed him as doubtful for tomorrow.
The Trojans will be missing another player on the field tomorrow. Senior defensive end Jabari Ruffin has been suspended from all team activities due to a student conduct issue. Helton said that there is no timetable for if or when Ruffin will return to the team.
The Trojans are no stranger to controversy off the field, but they must stay focused on the field if they want to keep their Pac-12 South hopes alive. 2 guys who are important in keeping those hopes alive are defensive veterans Michael Hutchings and Chris Hawkins. Sports Scene's Connor McGlynn and Jackson Safon got an exclusive sit-down to see how watching film is vital in their prep.
Would you guys say you watch more of the opposing team's film, or do you try to break down yourselves more?
We always focus on us first, and I think that's the main thing is breaking down our techniques, our fundamentals, and our schemes before we worry about the others. And I would say we focus on ourselves more, and then we apply what we know in our schemes and techniques to what they're running.
You always hear the saying, practice makes perfect. So is a lot of the film work watching more practice footage or watching the actual game tapes?
No practice is really perfect. So we come in here, we find time throughout the day. We get with the coaches and we look, at the mistakes we make so that we don't make them again. When it comes to watching the other team, we do that a lot as well. We got to find time to watch them on your own. If you really want to be great, you have to find the time throughout the day to really apply yourself so that when game day comes, it's easy.
Right. All right, well, Mike, you're in control of the remote. How about you walk us through this first play? It's a matchup between USC and Colorado.
Yeah, this is the first play right here. Chris will make a play on an under route that's coming underneath here. Chris is right here, safety. And they're motion over to a formation that we know. Chris will make a big play on 3rd down right here.
So you see him come up kind of anticipating that throw. when you see them go into the motion like that, is it kind of a read that they're checking out of something into something that you're more familiar with, or how does that motion kind of give away what they're doing?
You know, I've seen it throughout the week, you know, on film. You know, once they line up their Z receiver, you know, tight to the line of scrimmage like they do on this play right here, it always alerts me to a play that I've seen during the week, so I'm able to anticipate it and play fast. So once you see the motion just ran across, then you have number 4 is Bryce Bobo. Once you see him tight to the line, they're trying to set up which is called a trailer screen to him. So once I see when they're trying to set up a trailer screen, then it's my objective to, you know, to go make a play. It's 3rd and 4. This is one of their great 3rd down plays. You know, it's worked throughout the season.
That was just a taste, but you can catch the full exclusive online at uscannonburgmedia.com.
The Trojans have had many ups and downs through the first half of their season, and here with me to pick out a few of those is Paolo Uggetti. Thank you for joining me, Paolo.
Thanks for having me, Alexa.
USC got off to a slow start offensively, scoring only 16 points in their first 2 games against Power 5 opponents. How have they progressed from then until now?
Well, I think with the offense, to look at how they progressed from the start of the season to now, it's a little give and take. Obviously, they started off with Max Brown, and that did not bode so well. Obviously, that was a bit of the schedule as well, playing Alabama and playing Stanford, 2 teams that at that point were very highly ranked and looked really strong. But I think that the progression has been obviously because of the effect of putting Sam Darnold in there. And that's what it's a little bit about, because you wonder if Sam Darnold would have been the starter from the beginning had the offense been able to do this, produce this kind of scoring and this kind of production from the beginning. And so it's a little bittersweet with the USC offense, you know. You look at what Max Brown did and you say, you know, it's not all his fault. The offense was faltering a little bit, but the offense was built more for Darnold, and the past few games have shown that, even though they have been against lesser opponents. I mean, he's been able to wake up Juju Smith-Schuster and get him back to being one of the top receivers in the country, while also involving the tight ends and really spreading the ball around.
That's great. And while the offense has taken some time to develop, the defense has maintained strong all season. So what makes the defense so effective?
Well, I think with the defense, you have to look at them not as possibly one of the strongest defenses in the conference or in the nation, but they've just been really consistent. You know, they've allowed the offense to, if they are faltering, to stay in the game. They've been really good on 3rd down conversions, limiting their opponents, and just, you know, there's not really a huge standout guy like there is in Juju and Darnold in the offense, but they've all been pretty consistent and really limiting the opponents to big plays, aside from the first games against Alabama and Stanford. So they've really come a long way as well, I think. And together, they've been able to kind of create these games where both the offense and the defense are playing in rhythm and playing successfully, and that's been why USC is on a winning streak now.
And no team is complete without special teams, and we obviously touched on offense and defense, but the special teams have been exactly that, special. So how has John Baxter revitalized special teams?
Well, it's all about his technique and his fundamentals. You see him out there in practice, he's always, you know, focusing on the little things that really are going to add up to the end goal, which to him is just winning the game. He's affected the entire team, and especially the special teams. I mean, you see here, they've jumped on almost every statistical ranking from when last year, when they didn't really have a specific special teams coach, and now you have guys all over the field making plays on kickoff returns. You have Adoree Jackson, obviously, who's playing out of his mind every time he's on a punt return or a kickoff return. There's always a chance that he could return it all the way back to the touchdown. So the special teams as a whole has been kind of the cherry on top of the USC team in the past few games, how they've been able to find this winning streak, and it's largely been because the special teams has been consistent as well.
So this is great. So is there anything that's stopping them?
Well, it doesn't look like there is now, especially with the second half of their season being against teams that were thought to be much better at the start of the season, but now they're not. But I think that the thing that really looms over this whole team right now is that loss at Utah. And I think that this whole midseason recap, you know, it's good that they've been progressing both on offense, defense, and special teams. But because of that close loss at Utah late in that game, a lot of this does not matter. You know, they in the Pac-12 South, they're still behind a few games, so they're going to need help from Utah and Colorado to lose some games, and they can't mess up from here on out. They have to be perfect, and it's still a tough schedule with Washington there. So it'll be interesting to see how much this Utah game comes back to affect them, despite their improvement.
Well, thank you so much, Paolo. The Trojans will try and keep their conference hot streak alive when they take on Cal tomorrow at 7:30. The Thursday night game presents a conflict between school and football. Sports Scene's Hannah Wing has more.
While Trojan football is supposed to bring people together, this week's Thursday night game leaves students and faculty with mixed opinions about the timing of the game.
Thursday night class, we will have class. You will not be excused because there is a football game. That you should act accordingly, and you can always, maybe I'll leave class out early. Sometimes I would let class out early, maybe have an assignment the first part of class and then let them go to the second half of the game. But I would tell them it's not an excuse to miss class. You're here for school, not football.
The tough thing is, although it's a whole semester long class, there's so many other things that bump up against, like holidays and other things, so it's just one less class I can actually teach.
It's been pretty cool with us missing class so far. You kind of has the mentality that as long as you show up when you're in class and participate, that it's okay to skip class when you have to, and I think you'll understand that because it's game day, it should be okay to miss.
So basically we tried to convince him to let us be out of class because a lot of other classes are letting their kids out to go to the game, and he just didn't even consider it. He just doesn't view it as a priority, and so there's that.
I think it's cool because it's different than what we normally have, but also I'm less inclined to go to a Thursday night football game than I am a weekend football game just because of class and everything.
I'm just realizing that. Yeah, I have like classes all morning. Oh, that'll suck.
I'm not going to go to the game just because I don't have a ticket, I don't have a season pass.
I'm sorry.
If I did, though, I'd feel like it would just kind of be annoying because I do have class on Friday.
There are meetings on Thursday nights at 7:30, which is exactly when the game starts, and so it's relatively inconvenient for me. I kind of like the idea of it, and I recognize it just like works out poorly for our specific organization. And it would be fun to have an away game on a Thursday night and be able to like watch that on a Thursday night, but it's just inconvenient in our case specifically.
Attendance at the Coliseum has varied throughout this season. Tomorrow's weeknight game will likely not be a sellout. For Sports Scene, I'm Hannah Wing.
Joining us today in the studio, we have freshman outside hitter for the USC volleyball team and former Pac-12 freshman of the week, Khalia Lanier. Khalia, thank you so much for being with us this week.
Thank you.
Well, so you're a freshman. How have you been able to come in and make such an immediate impact on your team?
I think a lot of it has to do with like having such a supportive team behind me, a supportive coach, both right now and in the past. My parents have always like encouraged me to do my best. Trying to step into Samantha Bricio's role is definitely a big task to handle, but I'm doing as best as I can, and I know everyone is supporting me in my journey.
Well, you've definitely done a great job so far. How is your team dealing with the adversity you've faced so far?
I think it's hard. We started off the season 0-2 at home, so that was definitely an adjustment, not just for me, but the whole team. We're not used to losing at home, but I think one really amazing thing about this team is that we are getting better every single week. And we just lost to Stanford, which was a great team, but we know that we have to come back harder and stronger against Utah and Colorado this week.
And how are you going to do that?
In practice, we're definitely working really hard. We're adjusting some things on our defense, our offense, our mental game. So we just have to kind of prepare and do our best that we can to make the right preparations for the team that we're going to play the next time.
McHaley has tons of experience, so what kind of wisdom is he bringing to the team?
Yeah, like you said, he has so much experience. He's coached for the Olympic teams. He's coached for collegiate, club. Like, I don't think there's a level that he hasn't coached. So listening to him and seeing what it takes for him to get the places that he has, and obviously he's coached a wide range of players. So just listening to him and taking his advice, he's been on the same journey that we're trying to go on, and just being respectful to him and to ourselves, because if we don't listen to him, it's really a burden more on us than him. So I think taking his wisdom and learning from it and just trying to apply it in whatever way we can.
That's great. And I understand that you wear your jersey number 16 because in honor of one of your favorite players, someone you look up to a lot. Who is that?
My dad. He was number 16, and now I'm number 16. I have like a little tattoo on my back too. Just kind of an ode to him and his legacy, and I'm trying to make my own. So it's kind of like a friendly, familial competition between us to see like who can have the greatest impact on their sport. And like I was saying with McHaley, my dad has had such an impact in the game that he played, and he's walked the road that I'm going through right now. So just respecting those two great people and players that I have in my life and trying to learn from them is such an honor for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, has it been hard, like, to such a great basketball player?
It has. I think it has its ups and downs. Like I said, he has a lot of wisdom, but trying to live up to the expectations that I've set for myself because of who my dad is and that other people have set for me is definitely something hard to overcome, but I think it's made me stronger mentally in the long run and living up to expectations. I'm not going to crack under pressure. I'm going to try to live up to it and do as best as I can.
Well, it seems like you're doing a really good job of that so far.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. But thank you again so much for joining us in the studio. You can catch Khalia and the rest of the women of Troy in the Galen Center this Friday when they take on the Utah Utes at 8 o'clock.
The USC women's soccer team earned its 11th shutout of the season over the weekend in a 1-0 victory over Washington. Ben Albert and Josh Cohn are here to play some agree-disagree. So guys, both the offense and the defense have been excelling lately, but the forwards are the reason this team is so successful. Agree or disagree?
Josh, I'm going to go with agree. What's your take?
Yours truly's going with disagree.
Well, let me tell you why I agreed, guys. Last year, this was a great team. We saw that. We saw the development from the years prior. But you take a look at the offense in particular. Morgan Andrews had 12 goals. She did a great job, obviously, being a lead scorer for this team. But you look at the secondary scorers for the team. You have Sydney Johnson had 5, and then you have Kayla Mills and Manny Freeman contributing, but they're not even playing up that much this year. This year, you add Katie Johnson, who was injured, and you add Alex Anthony, who's transferred. And suddenly you have a balanced scoring attack with a trio of attackers because all three of those girls, Alex Anthony, Katie Johnson, and Morgan Andrews, have 7 goals apiece, which is putting a trifecta of pressure on defenses.
Very true, but I'm going to say disagree because it all stems from the back line and from the center defensive mid, Kayla Mills. The back line, of course, Allie Prysock, the only returner from last year that's starting in the back 4. It all starts with defense. 4 shutouts in the last 5 games. Let's not get this confused. This well-oiled machine, led by Kadani McAlpine, is a defense-first team. And you just look at Sammy Jo Prudhomme between the pipes, what she does game in and game out, the organization that she provides, and how disciplined they are. They're airtight, watertight in all the channels. Oppositions can't attack on the flanks. They've got it covered. Middle of the park, same deal. So you look at what they do defensively. Yes, the forwards put the ball in the back of the net, but you're looking at a whole bunch of goose eggs for oppositions against USC. I'm going to go with defense continuing to improve individually and as a unit.
Okay, so like you just said, they've been dominating their opponents week in and week out. Well, this team will make the national championship.
Oh, Alexa, please. Please. Agree.
Okay.
I disagree on this one.
Ooh, why is that?
Oh, man. I'm going to say agree for all the reasons I just mentioned, but also they have the experience now, okay? This team beat North Carolina 3-0, Stanford 3-0. And first 20 minutes of those 2 games, you're thinking this is a championship-like atmosphere. USC is on the back foot. These teams are applying a lot of pressure. They grew into those games. We saw them against elite opponents getting it done. So as the game progressed, because the ensuing 70 minutes, it was all SC. Possession, chances, you name it. Those are big games with a lot of pressure on the line. They were getting it done. They seemed unfazed. They have the experience, the personnel too. They have players who have been there before. They went to Charlottesville, Sweet 16 last year, tasted bitter defeat at the hands of the Virginia Cavaliers. They have that in the back of their minds now. They're hungry.
I hope I eat my words on this one, and I will not disagree with Josh on the fact that we do have the talent to win the national championship. But what I want to say is this. When you get to the playoffs, it's a different atmosphere, and as much as we've played well against certain teams like Stanford, high-ranked opponents, we've also tripped up a couple of times. Also, there's been a few games that you may not notice based off the statistics or the box score. For instance, last Thursday, I was at the Washington State game. We did win 3-0, but the first half, if you were at that game, you saw Washington State putting a lot of pressure on our defense, and that's something that if we play like that, like how we did in the first half of that game against a much better opponent, we might find ourselves in a hole that we can't overcome when it comes to the playoffs.
That is true, but earlier this season, this team broke a school record for longest consecutive shutout streak with 8 shutouts in a row, which is the best in school history. This is the best team USC's ever had. Agree or disagree?
Whoa now.
I'll start. I'm going to say disagree, but I want to preface this by saying I do think this is the best regular season team that USC has ever had. If you look at goals scored average and goals given up average, they're both as good as they've ever been. They're better than the national championship team that we had in 2007. However, as take a page out of the NBA, for instance, last season the Golden State Warriors had a regular season record, best record ever, but they faltered when it came to the playoffs. I'm not ready to crown this the best team yet, because at the end of the day, you got to bring home a championship.
I threw up both for a reason. It's exactly that. Coronation in NCAA women's soccer, men's soccer, NCAA sports, it can't happen in this season in October. When we look at December, that's going to be when it all comes down to. Mentioning that 2007 team, they had the superstar, Amy Rodriguez, and they also had the compelling storyline. That team lost to UCLA in Westwood that season. They played the Bruins in the national semifinal and won, and A-Rod had both goals in the win. It all came together. So for this team, yes, they play with a tremendous amount of quality and poise, but in the postseason, are they going to have the storylines even to make it memorable to whereas we're saying they're playing good soccer, they're winning games, they're hoisting the trophy, and we're going to remember this team decades from now? I think so.
Josh, you nailed it. Amy Rodriguez, do we have an elite player who can take over a game like she did? Yeah. Question mark going forward.
That is true. Only time will tell, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. USC is on the road for the last 3 games of the regular season starting this week, so it won't take long to figure out which of you is right. Now, let's toss it to moving from the pitch to the pool. Our Connor McGlynn and Aaron Glazer have the latest on this weekend's Top 5 Showdown.
The number 3 USC men's water polo team returns home to kickstart a 4-game homestand right here at the Wu-Tangzhou Aquatic Center to close out the regular season. USC welcomes in the Claremont schools on Thursday before really getting into action against number 2 Cal on Saturday. Aaron, USC's only loss so far this season in their 16-1 record came against the Golden Bears back in late September. What have you seen out of the Trojans so far since that meeting that shows that they can avenge that early season loss?
Well, Connor, what I've seen is defense. They allowed 10 goals to the Golden Bears in that game. Since then, the most they've allowed in any single game has been 7. So by playing consistent defense, they've been able to get the ball back into the hands of their very talented offense. And ultimately, when you look at this offense, it's one that can do a lot of things. And so giving them the opportunity to do those things has ultimately led USC to the type of success they've seen.
Well, you mentioned defense. What stuck out to me is the offense and the amount of different options that they've had at their disposal. In each of the last 7 games, USC has had at least 4 different scorers hit that multi-goal mark. So that's been really making the defenses spread out a bit more, which opens up the shooting lanes for the drivers on the outside or easier entry passes inside to the 2-meter position.
And well, with this offense, leading the way is the brother combination of Blake and Lachlan Edwards. The pair have scored 22 goals in their last 5 games. But they're not alone. It's been a bit of a team effort. Who else has really risen to the occasion, Connor, besides the brothers?
That's right. In order for them to be so successful, they need a strong supporting cast around them, and that's exactly what they've gotten out of guys like junior drivers Matteo Morelli and Grant Stein. Both of them are within 2 goals of reaching the 100 career goal mark and are 3rd and 4th on the team respectively in scoring.
You mentioned this offense continuing to grow. The team will continue to grow as a lot of these players still have years of eligibility left. So going forward for the Trojans, even beyond this season, they can look to hopefully continue the high level of success that they've had this year and in years past.
And that high level of success this year has been pretty insurmountable. USC is 8-1 so far this season against top 10 ranked opponents, outscoring them 98-39 in those 8 wins. So Aaron, what does it say that they've been able to have so much success against these really strong programs so far?
Well, I think you have to look beyond the team itself and to the organization as a whole. Coach Jovan Vavik celebrated his 500th win with the team earlier this season, and it's a figure like him and an organization like the Trojans Water Polo One that has really established from top to bottom a culture of success. And we've seen this in years past, we're seeing it right now, and we hopefully will see it in the future for them. Something that just kind of overall embodies the good traits that you want to see in an athletic program, and it's these types of traits that when you go up against other top programs like the Golden Bears can ultimately result in high-level wins for the Trojans.
And that culture of success has been specifically strong against Cal. USC hasn't lost to Cal here at home since back in 2010. USC is going to welcome in the Golden Bears right here underneath the lights on Saturday at 6:30.
The men's and women's basketball team hosted the annual Trojan Tip-Off this past weekend at the Galen Center.
The Trojan fans got to see the players on the court for the first time this season in a friendly scrimmage. Before and after the scrimmage, the fans got the chance to interact with their favorite players. There were autographs, games, and bouncy houses galore.
Also, the USC fan club Trojan Fever set up a contest to name the Galen Center student section to get people pumped for the start of the season. Trojans can submit their ideas online and then vote on the best ones.
Ooh, do you have any good ideas, Alexa?
The only thing I can come up with is the black hole, because they wear black and sometimes the student section is non-existent, so.
Yikes. Well, hopefully the Trojans can come up with some clever names to start this season out on the right foot. That's all we have for this week. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and at Sportscene USC and like us on Facebook.
And be sure to look out for more stories at uscannonburgmedia.com. See you next week.